What if aliens were real? What would you first say to them? How would you even communicate with them in the first place? What if you were to accidentally offend them and a war breaks out? Don't worry, because our Group C, will focus on how you can communicate with an alien race. Throughout the entirety of this presentation, we'll go through all the challenges that might stop us from being able to communicate with aliens, potential solution we came up with in order to counteract those challenges, as well as what sort of impact our interaction will have. While the possibility of contact with aliens unfortunately won't be happening anytime soon, even with recent technological advancement, it is still important to have these conversation now to prepare for it.
When communicating with extraterrestrial beings, it's essential to recognize and respect potential cultural differences because understanding and appreciating these cultural nuances can prevent misunderstandings. Intercultural competence involves the ability to effectively and appropriately engage with individuals from different backgrounds. Cultural sensitivity involves being aware of and respectful towards the differences in cultures, beliefs, and practices of people from various backgrounds. It means recognizing that these differences can influence how people perceive and interact with the world around, in this case, alien civilization. To effectively communicate with the aliens, we must learn about and adapt to their social norms and customs. This might involve understanding their methods of greeting, their ways of expressing emotions, and their social hierarchies. By showing respect to their social norms, we can build trust and establish a foundation for positive and productive communication. Understanding social norms improves communication because when you are aware of the unexpected behaviors and unwritten rules within the alien civilizations, you can tailor your communication to be more appropriate and considerate, as they might respond more positively when they feel understood and respected. There are many ways to enhance our communication, like how picking up nonverbal cues can help us understand more accurately. Math can also make our communication more precise and universally understandable.
Mathematical concept stays consistent regardless of culture, religion, or gender. While the meaning of word can changes depending on different factor and situation, math remains consistent and is universally understood. Math itself doesn't use semantic equivocation, meaning that it isn't ambiguous. In verbal communication, there can be multiple different meanings depending on the context, and other factors which can lead to misunderstanding or confusion. However, math ensures that this isn't a problem, and almost always only has one meaning. And mathematical communication also relies on symbol and notation, which has the same meaning worldwide. A subsection under math, which is geometric design, can visually represent complex concepts that words often struggle to do. Geometric shapes and patterns are often used in science, art, and basically everything to simplify complex ideas and explain them in a visual way that goes beyond just word. Oftentimes, it's much easier to understand an abstract concept with the help of a visual aid when it's difficult to use word alone, perhaps due to a language barrier or other differences such as cultural one. And geometric shapes like circle, triangle, and square appears naturally in the world around us. These shapes are not only influenced these shapes are not influenced by culture or languages, meaning that they can be universally understood across different civilizations, including potentially extraterrestrial one.
Besides standardized communication via math, we can also use it for mathematical pattern recognition and various uses for mathematical technologies. Furthermore, effective communication with extraterrestrials requires interdisciplinary preparation and an understanding of potential challenges. To mitigate these, we can use tools like AI and commonalities between species. AI could serve as a universal translator, analyzing patterns in alien signals and identifying shared cognitive structures even in entirely unfamiliar contexts. AI systems can analyze and interpret patterns in alien signals, potentially identifying linguistic structures even in entirely unfamiliar forms of communication. By training on diverse datasets, AI might discern universal principles of communication such as repetition, symmetry, or hierarchical organization. These systems could operate beyond human biases, bridging cognitive gaps through their capacity for massive data analysis and probabilistic reasoning, paving the way for translating messages from extraterrestrials into human understandable formats. Communication could focus on shared evolutionary principles such as the laws of physics or biochemical similarities to establish mutual understanding. The shared laws of physics and potential similarities in biological evolution provide a foundation for communication. For instance, concepts like energy, light, or fundamental chemical elements are universal and could serve as initial reference points. By referencing measurable phenomena, for example, the periodic table or mathematical constants, humans might bridge the gap with aliens' understanding. Biological parallels, such as cellular structures or DNA analogs, could offer relatable concepts assuming some degree of overlap in life-sustaining mechanisms across species.
What makes a good first impression? Is it a person who gets straight to the point whether or not you like it? Or is it a person who seems too nice for it to be genuine? And how do you decide your approach when making a first impression? Should we be upfront and assertive? Or should we passively wait for them to make the first interaction? These are the tough questions that go into deciding how we should first interact with extraterrestrial life. These are the questions that will shape our future while coexisting with outside life forms. First impressions. First impressions make or break most relationships before they even start. They're also the reason you may or may not get a job. First impressions are inevitable whether you want them to be or not. So how should we form our approach to extraterrestrial life? This choice could either advance us or destroy us. Carlos Santana explains to us there are two different approaches that we could use. We either play the chicken game with extraterrestrials or we do the dove method with them. The chicken game is when two people are heading at each other at full speed and have to see who will move out of the way first. In this method, we will approach extraterrestrials aggressively to see if we can suppress them. When speaking on this, Santana explains, showing just how irrationally and spitefully violent we can be is one way to make this threat credible. He believes in this method because if we can pull it off, then we have shown dominance and we will gain power against extraterrestrials. This method is great, if it works out, but if it doesn't, then it could be catastrophic for our planet. Another method that Santana suggests is the dove method. This is a more passive way to approach other life forms that could also be a great approach if it works out well. Santana seems more against this approach when he says doing nothing may even invite aggression by the other party. For all we know, the ETI may interpret silence or neutrality as impolite, offensive, or even a signal of hostile intent. This approach will earn its outcome depending on the interpretation that the other life forms get from it. Being peaceful can be seen as weak or offensive to other life forms. If it does work, then we could have a long-lasting and uplifting relationship with extraterrestrials that can better us both in the long run. With either choice, the outcome is unknown, but it is a very important decision. As we approach the possibility of connecting with outside life, this discussion will need to be talked about more.
Finally, let's talk about the psychological impact of humans when discovering extraterrestrial life. According to the study, How Will We React to the Discovery of Extraterrestrial Life? Researchers explored how people would react to the discovery of extraterrestrial life, and it focused both on media coverage and individual responses. Several studies showed strong evidence that reactions to such discoveries, real or hypothetical, are usually positive. In the past, media coverage used positive language rather than a negative one. People showed more positive reactions towards announcements of alien discoveries, especially towards of Earth-like planets, maybe because of the potential benefits. Also, when asked about their own reactions, participants anticipated their reactions to be more positive when compared to humanity overall, indicating personal optimism. However, further research is needed to examine any difference in reactions. While there is evidence that human reaction towards an alien discovery would be generally positive, there is still an underlying fear of the unknown. Because of this, scientists like Stephen Hawking are strongly convinced that we should not come into contact with alien life. In 2010, Stephen Hawking said that we should only have to look at ourselves to see how intelligent life might develop into something we wouldn't want to meet, referencing our own atrocities. Other scientists have warned of dangers like the ones we see in science fiction. Aliens with their advanced technology could follow messages like radio waves as a beacon towards Earth, and exploit us and maybe even end all life as we know it. Lucian Velkovich, an astrophysicist at the Alder Planetarium in Chicago, believes it is possible we might get the attention of an intelligent civilization who would not necessarily have our best interests in mind. The discovery of extraterrestrial life would drastically change many people's worldview, allowing for increased cultural exchange. It would also allow us to address our fears and challenge our beliefs and values, all of which would help us establish reasonable goals for interstellar diplomacy. It would also force us to rethink our place in the universe. For example, a person would be forced to rethink their belief in the uniqueness of humanity and the magnitude of the universe, that we are not the only intelligent life to occupy the universe, and there may be billions of species out there with their own stories. As a result, many people will begin to intensely question previously held scientific and religious beliefs. This would lead to some people feeling validated, while other people may experience existential or religious crisis. Astrophysicist Lucian Valkovich notes that while there is a chance that aliens could be malicious towards us, on the other hand, there might be great benefits. It could be something that ends all life on Earth, and it might be something that could address the ability to live quality lives on Earth. We have no way of knowing.